Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. We've got a bit of a controversial one here today, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my content. It really does mean the world to me. For those of you that do not know, I try to tackle everything media or pop culture related, so if you do enjoy conversations like this, then please make sure to subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about Greta Gerwig's adaptation of Narnia on Netflix. And this has not been confirmed, but there are so many videos on social media at the moment talking about how Meryl Streep was potentially approached in regards to playing the role of Aslan. And I think that is just honestly a terrible, terrible idea. And there has just been this huge, massive debate on social media about whether or not Meryl Streep would be a good Aslan. And so in this video, I want to actually discuss why not necessarily Meryl Streep, but just a woman should not portray Aslan. And I want to give various reasons for this. But for some backstory, Narnia is one of my favorite book series of all time. I'm not necessarily a big reader. When I do read, it's usually nonfiction. Narnia is one of the few fiction books I've read over and over and over again. I think it's truly beautiful. C.S. Lewis, who wrote it, one of my favorite authors of all time, probably tied with Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. Little known fact, actually very well known fact, they were like best friends. And that will come up later on in this video. But I really just want to talk about why I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that Aslan should always be portrayed by a man and as a man. So just to start off, I'm genuinely shocked whenever I learn that this isn't a well-known fact, but the Chronicles of Narnia, the entire book series, the movies, however you were introduced to Narnia, written by C.S. Lewis, is very much an allegory for Christianity. And a lot of people don't know this, and so I'm genuinely always shocked when I bring it up and people aren't aware of it. So if you didn't know, yes, Narnia is an allegory for Christianity as a whole, and Aslan is not just a Christ-like figure, but he is Jesus. Narnia obviously takes place in a fantasy realm, or rather almost like a parallel universe to ours, where Aslan is that world's Jesus. And they're actually one and the same. And we'll break that down later. So obviously, people who are fans of the Narnia and who are Christians are going to feel a little bit taken aback when you hear something like, "Ooh, Greta Gerwig wants to cast a woman to be Aslan." Because we are looking at this going, cool, this character Aslan represents Jesus, who is the founder and perfecter of our faith, Christianity. Why do we want a woman to portray Jesus? And that's actually what's happening right now. We're basically being told, oh yeah, we want to reboot Narnia, which we know millions of you love, and we want to kind of like just cast a woman to play Jesus. And hopefully most people can understand why a lot of us might feel uneasy or uncomfortable about that. So I mentioned earlier that I've written a few points I want to get through, but I do think that as we go through each and every single one of these points, you'll also understand why I do genuinely prefer a masculine Aslan. And I hope you understand my heart in all of this as well. This isn't me trying to go, no, women aren't allowed. This is me trying to say, look, the original author was very intentional with his decision, very intentional with the symbolism behind the way he wrote his characters, and that's why I think they should be left the way they are. So for those of you that didn't know, C.S. Lewis isn't just a fictional author. He actually wrote a series of theological books about Christianity as well. Let me see if they are actually right here. So I've got a few of his books as well, Mere Christianity. I'm busy rereading The Problem of Pain. Beautiful book, by the way. But he was very, very specific in his writing about Christianity, because he really dissects some heavy, heavy, deep themes in these books, and they are reflected in the Chronicles of Narnia. And so when he writes something, it's with intention. It is so very, very rarely that something is written in the Chronicles of Narnia that doesn't have a deeper meaning. And so the fact that Aslan is a lion in and of itself, it's not just because we go, oh, lions, cool, you know, the king of the jungle. No, the fact that Aslan is a lion is in reference to the fact that Jesus is referred to as the Lion of Judah. And this happens in Revelations. And what's great about that is the fact that Jesus is called the Lion of Judah. It's not an empty title either. It's actually almost the fulfillment of a prophecy that is spoken in Genesis. Revelations is the last book in the Bible, and Genesis is the first book in the Bible. So you have this thing being spoken about Jesus in Genesis. And that works its way all the way through to the fulfillment of this prophecy in Revelations, talking about the Lion of Judah. So Jesus, when he's called the Lion of Judah, it's not an empty title, it's triumphant. It's talking about prophecy, it's talking about this title, it's talking about a victor, it's talking about royalty. And that's reflected in Aslan being a lion. So we've kind of tackled why Aslan is a lion. Why does he have to be a male, besides the fact that he is Jesus? And I want to tackle that idea of Aslan being Jesus a little bit deeper as well. But even the lion's mane, even Aslan's mane in Narnia is symbolic. It symbolizes the crown of Jesus. And you can see this and especially when you watch the movie, when Aslan gives himself up to the White Witch and he's surrendering, what's the first thing that happens? She commands her people to rip off his mane, to cut off his mane, to shave it off. They're perverting him. They're ripping off his crown. In many ways, this is the symbolic gesture of the Romans making Jesus wear the crown of thorns. It's making a mockery of the royalty that is present. If you have a female lion, you don't have mane, and so you lose the symbolism that takes place there. Aslan doesn't just die for Edmund haphazardly. It is a symbolic reimagining of what Jesus did for us on the cross. And when Jesus wears the crown of thorns, it's the Romans mocking him, saying, oh, you say you're the king of the Jews. You say you're the king of the Jews. It's the White Witch that does the exact same thing when she rips off the mane of Aslan. She goes, where's your crown now? You can't have a female lion with a mane. You lose that entire symbolic image when you decide to change Aslan from a male to a female. So that's another point it's so incredibly important. The symbolism there is beautiful. And the thing about art isn't art just because it looks pretty. Art needs to make you feel something. And so when you are actively changing somebody else's version of art for the worse because you're removing the symbolism of it, what are you doing? Also, I want to say, let's just talk about Liam Neeson for a second, who was obviously Aslan in the Disney trilogy. Beautiful. His voice, I would put Liam Neeson as Aslan up there with James Earl Jones as Mufasa. Two incredibly powerful voices playing two incredibly powerful lions. And the truth of the matter is, I love Meryl Streep as an actress. I think she's phenomenal. I can't buy her voice ever being as powerful as a Liam Neeson or a James Earl Jones. It just won't happen. Yet you have this lion whose very name speaks fear to his enemies. I don't see that happening with the Meryl Streep voice, to be honest. There is this beautiful, beautiful line in Voyage of the Dawn Treader that I want to read quickly. There's a few beautiful lines, and I might end up reading these out of the books. But these are the lines that kind of confirm, these are the lines that pretty much confirm what I was talking about earlier, with Aslan not just being a symbolic idea of who Jesus is. This is pretty much Aslan going, no, look, I am Jesus. So I just want to read a few verses quickly. This one is obviously from Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Okay, so here we go. This is beautiful. So this takes place as Aslan basically tells Lucy, look, you're not going to be able to come back to Narnia. This is your last time in Narnia. And she goes, well, why is that? And this is his response to her. In your world, I have another name. You must learn to know me by it. That was the very reason why you were brought to Narnia, that by knowing me here for a little, you may know me better there. It's literally Aslan telling Lucy, go back home and know me as Jesus. I've been able to build a relationship with you here, but this is the most we can get out of our relationship here. Go back to your world, understand who I am as Jesus. It can't be made clearer than that, that Aslan is Jesus in the world of Narnia. And that has to be respected. And then finally, this is the last battle. one of my favorite endings to any book ever. And it's sad. Holy smokes, the ending to The Last Battle. This is sad. And people still argue and fight about the meaning behind it to this day. But ultimately, everyone's in heaven. And this is, it's beautiful. Okay. So they're in heaven now. And Peter, Edmund, and Lucy are talking to Aslan. Susan's not there. That's a conversation for a different video. And as they're speaking to Aslan, they realize they're in heaven, and then this takes place. And as he spoke, he no longer looked to them like a lion, but the things that began to happen after that were so great and beautiful that I cannot write them. And he just becomes Jesus before them. And that's beautiful. And you have these moments where you have these characters throughout 7 books having this incredibly deep relationship with this character that cannot exist if you take away that symbolic relationship between Aslan and Jesus. I really want to tackle the idea as well that Greta Gerwig is tackling. Like, you have this great opportunity to talk about masculinity. In the world today, masculinity is under attack, and there's huge debates about what masculinity is supposed to look like, toxic masculinity, etc., etc., etc. Aslan is one of the few characters in fiction that I truly believe gets masculinity 100% correct. When we think about fantastical masculine characters, the top at everybody's list should actually be Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. Not only is he a king, but he serves people. He comforts people. He's loving, he's kind, but he's strong. We see him cry. We see him comfort people. Like, he is, for all intents and purposes, the ideal man. That is true masculinity. And Aslan does a great job of doing that as well. Obviously, he is a lion. He is this big, powerful animal. But he has such a soft, tender side to him. And we see that with Lucy. We see the love that he has for Edmund and the fact that he's willing to lay down his life for Edmund. And we see how he's willing to fight for his kingdom. There's a strength to him, but there's a softness to him. And I love this photo. I'm going to put it on screen now, of him playing with Lucy and Susan. That's beautiful. That's masculinity. That's the type of relationship where you can see a little girl playing with her father and they love each other, and it's kind and it's patient and it's beautiful. That is the kind of relationship that is also so symbolic of the role God is supposed to play in our lives. The Bible talks about us being able to have the relationship with God where we can call him Abba Father. For those of you that don't know what Abba means, it's what a young child would call their father. It's almost like daddy. If you're a little kid and you call your father, you go, daddy, daddy. It's similar to that. Maybe not as immature. It's a more mature term, but it's that sort of intimacy. And so we have that intimacy between Aslan and Susan, symbolic of the relationship that we get to have with Christ. All of this symbolism just disappears when you decide, hey, let's make Aslan a girl. So yes, guys, this was a long conversation with a bunch of different sources and ideas, but I would love, love, love to know your thoughts. So please comment down below if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I want to hear everything. But guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys again in another video.